We are here. Let's go. We're talking Desert Island. Desert Island is a question. Oh, let's make me pretty. Is that better? Doesn't really help. All right. We ask every student, every staff member, hell, we ask people who just we want to allow to be around, observers and high school students and all, what one piece of equipment they would choose if they were made to choose one piece for the rest of their life on a desert island. We've had a variety of answers. We've asked this question of, again, high school students. We've asked it of student physical therapists. We've asked it of physical therapists attempting to get a gig with us. We've asked it of professional seasoned vets in the PT game. And the amount of variety is sort of impressive. I will tell you that depending upon the setting that the therapist worked or is working in, that might guide certain decision making. Depending upon where that student has been for physical therapy before, whether they have ever received some kind of physical medicine care, that will certainly sway them in a direction of a certain piece of equipment or two. If somebody has a robust strength and conditioning background, let's say they played professional sports or have had a cup of coffee at a college program somewhere and now they're coaching a certain sport, so they're going to have a different idea of what the one piece is. Now, from our perspective, we want to know what one thing is the most versatile. That's kind of the question we're asking. We don't expect students to understand that, but definitely if you tell me something like a single 5-pound dumbbell, okay, well, that would be sufficient load for someone who is somewhat low level to get stronger, right? No problem. And to a certain point, there's an amount of work you do with 5 pounds that could make 5 pounds feel like a lot more work, but you were limited by your imagination in that one. And so, since we have such a cool space, since we have, so much time with our clients, it allows us to really noodle around exercise ideas, programming ideas, how we add and take away difficulties. We call them wrinkles. What are we doing to turn the screws? We say, what are we doing to move the line every time someone comes in? And the tools we use are just our favorites, right? So I'll give you my kind of top couple favorite and then some of our worst answers ever. So one of my worst answers ever is basically any version of a TheraBand. Any version of a piece of equipment that is typically seen in these PT mill settings where, time isn't something that is a high priority, one-on-one contact isn't a high priority. So what's going on, Jeff? When we have, when you have to send a client off to the corner, it probably pays to give them something that is hard to injure yourself with. So doing external rotation with a green TheraBand for your shoulder, while very low level and, maybe appropriate at certain times in rehab, might not be the most effective use of that person's time. Let's say that, after being able to do a certain amount of repetition under a certain load with relatively little discomfort, that's the sign to kind of keep moving. And that's hard to do that without direct skilled supervision. I mean, I know exercise can be seen as an unskilled thing. I think that's crazy, especially the way that physical therapists, physios, and rehab pros see movement. So yes, that's totally skilled. And so with that, you want a piece of equipment that gives you versatility, that gives you ability to really increase the intensity, maybe a piece of equipment that allows for multi-directional movement. So yeah, a TheraBand can do that, but there's limitations to it, of course. Now, that's probably the worst answer we get. Now you can make that answer the littlest bit better by saying, okay, well, let's give them a black or gold or silver TheraBand. And anybody in the physical therapy world knows that those are tighter, more stiff bands, but they're certainly not difficult work. We're doing more work bouncing around, turning our head, walking down the curb during our day-to-day than banded movements can really simulate for us. So we use many different modalities here. A top answer that we like is a kettlebell, right? And so there are kettlebells happen to be just extremely versatile. Many of the things that you can do with a barbell or other dumbbells you can do with kettlebells, but then there are many, many, many other movements, many other flow and progression type things that you can do with kettlebell work that you can't do with a barbell or you can't do with just dumbbells. So with that, one of our favorite answers happens to be kettlebells, and something on the heavier side, something on the side of, I need to make this challenging to even hold, even to just grip it for an amount of time. So we're talking about for somebody who is, middle-aged female trying to stay in shape, trying to get back or knees strong. You might be, and maybe that person weighs between 120 and 150 pounds. 20, 30 kilograms of weight on a bell. That sounds like a lot. That's between 40 and 70 pounds, depending upon how you do the math, and my math is bad. So that's not going to sound like a small amount of weight. Now, if you have two of them in your hand, well, you're holding a considerable amount more weight. And like I said, we can make a 5-pound weight feel very, very heavy. So it's not difficult now to think about how you can take a 20 kilogram weight, a 45-pound mass, and make it heavier than it already is, because it's already pretty heavy. And then when we start doing things with one leg versus with two legs, now suddenly that weight becomes twice as hard the resistance on the single leg exercise. So I love kettlebells as an answer to my desert island question. They're very versatile. You can move them through space very fast. So not only can you increase your strength, you can increase your power, you can increase your cardiovascular endurance, because there's so much that you can do to string movements together in a way that provides coordination and balance and power, and also cardiovascular health. My other really, really favorite answer came from one of our current staff PTs now. When he was a student here. And I don't know if it was his first answer, but what he said was a sandbag. And what I like about this answer is that he took into account that this was a desert island, right? So a sandbag, if you're not familiar, is an apparatus that's probably, they've been around forever, has become popularized more recently with a lot of the strongman competitions. So you're seeing this piece of equipment used. And what you can do is fill this bag with an amount of sand. And so the bags themselves might only be 50-pound capacity, and you can put 20 pounds of sand in that. Or you have a 150-pound bag, you can put 150 pounds of sand in that. But the idea now is that with a sand bag, you can be much more versatile than even a kettlebell. Sandbags move like kettlebells. They're bigger, usually bulky, but you can swing them, you can throw them, and if you alter the amount of sand in there, then you have a great progressive resistance, and actually better, I would say, than a kettlebell, because you have an infinite amount of weight now. So I love that answer. It was it's sort of outside the box, because it was using the information we gave, and I like that answer. But look, when you ask someone, a movement professional, what their favorite piece of equipment is or what their favorite movement is, when they give you an answer that has multiple directions in movement, has ways to alter the move harder or easier, that move is more real world than the move that locks you in a single plane, doesn't have a resistance that changes. Maybe that doesn't have a resistance that pushes back at you. We want moves like that. That is what the world does to us every day. We are constantly being hit by 9.8 meters per second squared of gravity. That is a lot. It's not a lot of weight, but it's volume. We are never not against it. So when we can make all of the movements that you want to do in your life hard against those resistances, well, life's kind of easy. The stuff we do in here is real difficult. Like some of the stuff that Jeff does with basically having one functional arm on the sled. We put a band across the bars to allow him to do that, but that actually creates more difficulty than one would think. It's certainly not a stable base, and we call that chaos here. Anytime we add a band to sort of redirect resistance and make you have to fight against an ugly weight or a weight that is not compliant to you, we call that chaos training. And it's terrific because it's exactly what our body does all the time. So another way, we just add versatility to stuff we've probably already seen. Everyone knows what a sled looks like. Well, have you ever thought about putting a big band between the handles and using one arm? Try that out. That's going to be a lot more difficult. Different training stimulus. You're going to use less weight, but you'll see the difference. And so please add versatility, add progressive resistance, add assistance to movements that are too difficult. And if you have questions about how to do any of that stuff, show up in the comments. Let's go. I'm going to get to work. Hope to get a bunch of questions about this stuff later. Enjoy your day, guys. Go kill it.